Hello, and welcome to Dreamy Tales, a sanctuary where everyone can experience calm and a touch of magic before gently drifting into sleep. Tonight, we invite you on another enchanting journey, a story that helps soothe the mind and nurture a sense of peace. Before we begin, let's take a moment to prepare our bodies and minds for a comforting, restorative rest. Make yourself cozy, and with each slow inhale and long exhale, let the cares of the day gradually slip away. It's not always easy to step back from the day's demands, especially as night falls. Yet, remember, the less we worry about how quickly we'll fall asleep, the simpler it is for our minds to release any remaining tension. Allow the gentle flow of your breathing to wash away lingering concerns, and let the story ahead guide you into a state of deep relaxation. Now, settle in, and let the dreamy atmosphere softly wrap around you. Enjoy this story, and may you drift into a peaceful, restful slumber here on Dreamy Tales.
Wood smoke, a ghost of warmth, curled through the frigid air, weaving itself into threads of dark chocolate and roasted coffee, an alchemy conjuring perfect contentment against the silent ballet of falling snow outside. Alara cradled the ceramic warmth of her hot chocolate, its heat seeping through her palms, a welcome tide flowing inward. She lifted the mug, inhaling the sweet vapor, tinged unexpectedly with mint. Here she sat, nestled deep within northern Finland, in the Sami heartland they called Sapmi, or Lapland, a realm blanketed in snow for more than half the year, perched above the Arctic Circle's invisible line. These protracted winters sculpted a unique existence. Life and culture intrinsically bound to the long polar nights and the omnipresent snow. The coffee house itself was fashioned from logs, less cabin and more traditional, steeply pitched hut, centered around a substantial stone fire pit where flames danced and writhed. Polished picnic-style tables, smooth under Ilara's fingertips, were scattered across the floor. The air hummed with a comfortable warmth, sufficient for her turtleneck jumper. Her heavy winter coat rested on a wooden rack nearby. From behind the counter came the gentle chime of porcelain as a woman washed dishes. Murmurs drifted around her, locals and fellow travelers conversing in a soft tapestry of tongues: English, Finnish, Russian, Spanish. Amber light pooled from metal fixtures, spaced evenly overhead, bathing the rustic interior in a moody glow. Outside, twilight was already deepening. The brief Arctic day surrendered, yet color still bled across the horizon as she gazed through the window pane. Fresh snow descended with hypnotic slowness, adding to the thick quilt already muffling the world. Distant village lights pricked the gloom. Other shops, homes, even the faint outline of the cabin awaiting her return. Each building radiated the same soft yellow luminescence, a beautiful counterpoint to the blue-white snow. Trees stood like frosted sentinels, scattered through the village. The scene held a fragile magic, demanding preservation. A zip rasped open. Her fingers navigated a landscape of woolen gloves, a leather-bound journal, and deeper still, a pair of ice skates, their laces neatly secured. She brushed a fingertip against a lace, a flicker of anticipation for the evening ahead igniting within her. At last, her phone emerged, startlingly cold against her skin. The camera app opened, a small rectangle of light in the dim cafe. Ilara shifted, angling towards the window. She lifted the phone, tapping the screen, the focus square contracting on the snowy vista. Few clicks, capturing the ephemeral scene before lowering the device. The last photograph lingered on the screen until the light ebbed away. With a decisive motion, she powered off the phone, returning it to the backpack's depths. The finality of the zipper's sound merged with the nearby crackle and spit of the hearth fire. Her attention returned to the table, to the ceramic mug. Lifting it once more, she inhaled deeply, then took a slow, deliberate sip. She held the comforting weight, drinking intermittently, her gaze drifting between the cozy interior and the enchanting snowscape beyond. Eventually, the mug stood empty. Ilara placed it gently on the wooden surface, gathered her backpack, and slid off the smooth bench. A smile and a wave acknowledged the server as she retrieved her coat from the rack, its familiar weight settling on her shoulders. She approached the curved wooden door, leading to a small snow-dusted patio. Grasping the handle, the profound chill of the Arctic evening announced itself. A fleeting embrace as she pushed the door open. Cold air washed over her face, but her layers, thick and well-chosen, stood ready. Before venturing further, she paused, sinking onto a bench tucked beneath the overhang, sheltered from the still falling snow. Another zip, and this time, thick, woolly gloves emerged. She drew them on, finger by careful finger, adjusting until they felt perfectly snug. Now, she thought, rising, now I am ready. A deep breath plumed white in the air, lingering for a moment before dissolving into the twilight. Her rented kick sled awaited, the preferred local conveyance on the snow-packed, unsalted lanes. Fashioned primarily from wood, it featured a small chair mounted above twin metal runners, akin to elongated ski blades, crowned with sturdy handlebars. She'd left it propped just to the right of the cafe entrance before going inside. Each step towards it sent soft crunches through the snow beneath her boots. The sled was as she'd left it, albeit now adorned with a fresh dusting of powder on the seat and handles. Just then, a local man, weathered face crinkling into a smile, ambled past. He gestured towards a small shed nearby, its triangular roof echoing the cafe's design. "Snow scraper," he offered, his voice muffled slightly by the cold air. "Just inside there." Ilara glanced at the outbuilding, its long door looking slightly askew. With a grateful smile, she thanked him for his kindness. A firm tug, surprisingly resistant, broke the ice that had fused the old shed door shut. Inside, amidst shadowed tools, she located the scraper behind a large rake. A few brisk sweeps cleared the snow from her sled's chair and handlebars. She returned the scraper to its place, pushing the shed door firmly closed until it latched. "Almost ready," she mused. almost ready for the forest path. She carefully secured her backpack onto the sled's chair, ensuring its stability, then placing one boot, and the other, onto the runners. She gripped the handlebars. Her gloved hands registered the underlying cold metal. She imagined the biting sting without the wool's protection. Shifting her weight, she planted her dominant foot onto the packed snow and pushed off with a strong, decisive kick. Snow crystals sprayed upwards like miniature fireworks. Effortlessly, she was gliding, navigating the straight, snow-laden street of the Arctic village. A rhythm established itself. Glide, kick, glide. She slid past warmly lit cabins and bundled pedestrians. The world hushed and serene. In the distance, the sunset painted the sky in soft, ethereal hues, pale pinks melting into delicate blues, deepening with each passing moment. Here, above the Arctic Circle, the sun's reign was brief at this time of year. The inhabitants knew the long darkness intimately, embracing it, finding solace in cozy interiors, candlelight, and fire-warmed cafes. She passed the man who had offered help moments before. The rhythmic swish of her sled runners on the snow likely announced her approach. They exchanged waves and brief greetings without her breaking stride. Tiny snowflakes, impossibly light, kissed her nose and cheeks as she moved. A profound sense of belonging settled over her. There is nowhere else, she felt with certainty, kicking off again. Nowhere else I would rather be. Suddenly, a flurry of motion. Children on their own, kick sleds zoomed past, a gust of cold air swirling in their wake. Two young boys stood upright on their sleds, swaddled in winter gear, woolly scarves trailing. Another child, a girl with a white knitted beanie from which strands of hair escaped to dance in the wind, sat nestled in one of the sled chairs, mitten-clad hands resting calmly in her lap. The small convoy sped onward down the street, their laughter echoing faintly. After several more minutes of rhythmic gliding, Alara executed a leisurely right turn. As she rounded the corner, a vista of pure winter enchantment unfolded. Before her lay the lake, a vast expanse of thick, solid ice. Pine trees, heavy with a magical dusting of fresh snow, fringed its edges. The crisp, clean scent of pine filled the air, an aroma that, for Alara, captured the very essence of winter, a blend of evergreen, a hint of peppermint, the warmth of spice. The sun had now fully surrendered, and stars began to prick the darkening canvas overhead. A few lampposts flickered to life, their faint clicking sounds barely audible as they acknowledged the encroaching night. It was, undeniably, the perfect setting for ice skating. Drawing closer, she brought the sled to a gentle halt near the lake's edge, letting out a soft sigh after the smooth journey. She paused, admiring the snow-laden pines meeting the frozen water, the blissful quiet of the snowy terrain. A sturdy-looking log, half buried in the snowdrift, caught her eye, its dark wood a stark contrast to the white expanse. She maneuvered her sled alongside it, pressing the runners firmly into the snow for stability. Glancing down at her hands, she used her left to carefully pull at the fingertips of her right glove, sliding it off and tucking it into her coat pocket. Repeating the motion with the left glove, she felt the soft wool yield, then the sudden bite of cold on her bare skin. Bending, she unzipped her backpack, shifting aside its contents until her fingers closed around the ice skates. They clinked and bumped as she drew them out. Protective cover shielded the blades. She pulled them off each skate carefully, the chill of the metal seeping into her hands. The covers dropped into the open backpack. Her current footwear, snug snow boots lined with thick fleece, had kept her feet wonderfully warm throughout the day. A brief hesitation surfaced about removing them in the frigid air. Nevertheless, she nudged the backpack aside and settled onto the kick sled's chair. Propping her right foot on the log for leverage, she unlaced the boot and slid her foot free, feeling the plush lining give way. The boot dropped softly onto the snow. Her foot slipped into the ice skate. Wrapping the laces firmly around her hands, she pulled them taut, securing the skate snugly. A sturdy double knot followed, and a quick wiggle confirmed the fit. She lowered her right foot and swiftly repeated the entire process with her left. Both skates now laced tight. A tingling butterfly wing sensation fluttered in her stomach. It was time. Before rising, however, she retrieved her gloves from her pockets, pulling them back onto her chilled hands. Instantly, her skin began to warm, returning to cozy equilibrium. Now, she decided again. Truly ready. She stood, taking a few tentative steps towards the frozen expanse, the snow crunching beneath the skate blades. Then she was on the ice. Her body seemed to remember, moving with an almost instinctual grace. It had been a while, but muscle memory asserted itself. Soon she was gliding, performing an unconscious dance across the lake's vast surface. The blades hissed and scraped against the thick ice, a sharp, beautiful music in the profound silence. Joy bubbled up inside her, pure and carefree. It was just her, the ice, and the immense natural beauty of Arctic Finland embracing her. She found herself spinning, slow circles turning joyous, a wide smile spreading across her face. Laughing softly, she tilted her head back, gazing up at the star-strewn sky, overcome with gratitude for this singular moment, this extraordinary life. As she looked up, a large, perfect snowflake drifted down, landing precisely on the tip of her nose, provoking another giggle. The day she felt could hold no more perfection. She continued to skate, surrendering to the exhilarating sensation of freedom. Playfully, she experimented with small flourishes, turning, even attempting to skate backwards. It took a moment to find the rhythm, the balance, but soon it felt surprisingly natural. Swaying her hips, carving zigzags across the frozen water. After a few minutes of backward gliding, she turned forwards again, the crisp air rushing past her face, sharper now. The temperature had noticeably dropped since sunset. It made her think of the moon. Slowing her glide, she scanned the heavens again. There it is, she whispered, spotting a slender crescent, yet shining with surprising brilliance against the deepening indigo. Nearby, a steady, unwavering point of light. Venus, she recalled, distinguishable from the stars by its constant glow, its refusal to twinkle. As her eyes traced the faint patterns of constellations, admiring the seemingly tiny celestial details, something shifted, a subtle change in the sky, like the beginning of a mist, but higher, stranger. She squinted, trying to focus. Then a soft, joyful gasp escaped her lips as the ethereal haze intensified, deepening into a mesmerizing, vibrant green. The northern lights, the aurora borealis. Ribbons of emerald light swayed and pulsed across the star-dusted expanse, their celestial dance seeming to echo her own movements on the ice below. The lights shimmered, one section flaring a brilliant, almost neon green, then extending outwards, softening as it rippled and flowed. Despite the breathtaking movement overhead, time itself felt suspended. She wasn't sure if she was still skating or standing perfectly still, utterly transfixed, gazing upwards. It felt as though she had slipped the bonds of ordinary space and time, witnessing something ancient and profound. The otherworldly colors, the silent, luminous performance felt impossibly close. Instinctively, she reached a gloved hand upwards, as if to touch the celestial fabric. And then, as swiftly as it began, the light pulsed one last time and faded, like velvet curtains, drawing closed at a performance's end. A tingling sensation remained, vibrating through her entire body as she stood alone in the middle of the frozen lake. She felt intensely alive, yet simultaneously calm, serene, enveloped in the afterglow of the aurora spectacle. Nothing like it, she thought. Never witnessed anything like it. So glad, so utterly glad to be here on this perfect day. Slowly, almost reverently, she glided around the lake one final time, her mind replaying the natural wonder she had just beheld. Then she steered towards the edge closest to her belongings, stepping carefully off the ice onto the snowy bank, tiny shards scattering from beneath her blades. Back in the snow, she sank onto the kick-sled's chair. Her fuzzy boots waited patiently. Bending down, she untied each skate, pulling them off one by one. Setting them aside, she slipped her feet back into the welcome warmth of her boots, lacing them comfortably. Standing, she turned, brushing off stray snowflakes that had settled on her shoulders during her skate. Picking up the ice skates, feeling their surprising weight in one hand, she dug out the protective blade covers with the other. She gently pushed the covers onto each blade, then placed the skates back into her backpack, letting out a soft, contented sigh before zipping it closed one last time. She pulled the kick sled back onto the main path, ready for the short return journey to the village center. Back on the runners, she sped along the snow-covered track. The evening air was still populated by a few locals and visitors enjoying the crisp night. She noticed they all seemed to possess a similar quiet glow about them. She imagined her own face reflected the same serene radiance. As she sledded past a small group, she overheard snippets of conversation about the northern lights. A private smile touched her lips, thinking of the exceptionally intimate view she'd been granted from the secluded lake. Soon, her cabin came into view. She parked her sled alongside several others near the entrance. No need for locks or security here. Trust was woven into the fabric of this place. A couple of steps led up to the cabin door. She softly kicked the toes of her boots against the risers, dislodging clumps of packed snow. At the threshold, she scraped her soles thoroughly on the snowflake-patterned doormat before turning the knob and stepping inside. The small cabin opened into a common area where a few guests could congregate around the inviting fireplace. Her gaze fell upon the crackling flames, illuminating a couple seated close together, holding steaming mugs. Vapor rose lazily as the woman took a sip. As the door clicked shut behind Dilara, the woman glanced her way, offering a warm smile before turning back to the mesmerizing fire. Heading down the short hallway, the wooden floorboards creaked companionably beneath her weight. Moments later, she reached her room. It was a cozy haven dominated by a large bed dressed in thick quilts, the decor simple and rustic. A small potted pine tree stood in the corner, suffusing the air with its clean forest scent. Kicking off her boots near the door, she reached over and flicked on a string of fairy lights adorning the wall by the bed. Their tiny bulbs cast a welcoming, gentle mood. Across from the bed, a window looked out onto the night. She walked over, pulling back the heavy curtains, closing her eyes for a brief, hopeful moment. She then looked out at the soft mounds of snow below and up towards the clear, star-saturated sky. With a contented yawn, she began her preparations for sleep. Soon, she was pulling back the luxuriously soft blankets, slipping between the cool, smooth sheets, one leg at a time. She fluffed the pillows, then leaned across to the bedside table to switch off the fairy lights. And then, like a final, whispered enchantment, she saw them again through her window. The northern lights, glowing greens, laced with soft whites, painted the sky above the snow-laden trees. The lights moved with a slow, languid grace, as if dancing and humming a silent lullaby. Time drifted. The celestial lights glistened high above. Before she fully registered it, her eyelids grew heavy, resisting her will to keep watching. She blinked slowly, softly, as consciousness surrendered, drifting into a deep, restful slumber, her dreams already weaving themselves from the magic of Arctic Finland and the dazzling, unforgettable aurora borealis. Avian melodies trilled from cherry boughs and apple blossoms as Auguste Dubois, straw hat perched jauntily, eased open the door of his dwelling. He emerged, his fingers combing through the silver cascade of his beard, his gaze sweeping across Le Clos Fleuri, his magnificent garden sanctuary. Dewdrops clung like tiny jewels to the nascent petals, a blush of pink, a whisper of violet, stark white, impassioned red. A quiet contentment settled on his features. He stooped, retrieving a worn leather satchel, then his familiar wooden easel. Down the gravel path he ambled, pausing before a vibrant chorus line of peonies. Squinting, Dubois appraised the pink profusion, the intricate density of their furled petals. Nearby, a honeybee hummed its low, resonant tune, the air still carrying the night's coolness, surrendered incrementally to the sun's gentle insistence. Yes, Dubois mused, this vista would serve. He unfolded the collapsible easel, its tripod legs finding purchase on the gray pathway stones. Bending to the satchel, he unbuckled it, revealing brushes with neatly trimmed bristles, a wooden palette awaiting its chromatic destiny, and an assortment of oil paint tubes. Decades after their invention, Dubois still marveled at their portability, this liberation that allowed him to work swiftly outdoors, squeezing vibrant ribbons directly onto canvas, or blending them into subtle harmonies upon his palette. Painting outdoors, en plein air, the artists termed it, had long been Dubois' sanctuary ever since his formative years. The nascent painter had spent countless hours gazing across the shores and bustling docks of his coastal hometown, Le Havre, in Normandy. He'd become acutely aware of the ocean's chameleon nature, how its colors transmuted with the day's progression or the weather's caprice. Consider the aquamarine shimmer under a high summer sun, contrasting with the ominous gunmetal gray heralding a squall. Recall the profound navy deepening at twilight, or the sea's absolute blackness under a moonless sky. Dubois dedicated himself to chronicling these ephemeral shifts, striving to distill their fleeting essence onto canvas, sometimes directly upon the sands. He pursued impressions, famously titling one seminal work, Impression, Aurore, back in 1872. When a Parisian critic later labeled Dubois and his contemporaries impressionists, the term, initially barbed with derision, was embraced. He and his circle, artists like Bastien Moreau, Elise Valéry, and Antoine Léger, reveled in it. They captured their perceptions, instant by instant, day after fleeting day. Today, a smile played on Dubois' lips as he inhaled deeply, absorbing the tranquil beauty of his chosen spot. He remembered his first encounter with this land, the terrain destined to become his haven, his personal Eden. In the early 1880s, Auguste Dubois had been aboard a train winding languidly through the French countryside west of Paris, past golden wheat fields traced by horse-drawn plows and timber-framed houses crowned with thatch. Roughly 50 miles from the capital, his eyes fell upon the hamlet of Vernonnet, cradled where the Epte met the Seine. Obsessed as he was with light, Dubois watched sunlight fracture and dance upon the river's ripples, glancing upwards to illuminate the leaves of a nearby apple tree with an ethereal glow. In that precise moment, profound recognition dawned. He was home. By 1883, Dubois had relocated his family to Vernon, renting a modest house in adjacent land, which he began, patiently, to shape into a botanical idyll. The cottage itself was gradually extended into one long structure, accommodating his burgeoning family and studio space. He painted it with a painter's eye for effect, a soft, welcoming pink for the facade, punctuated by shutters and window frames in a lively green. Along the front, Dubois trained climbing roses over a pergola spanning the house's length, while Virginia creeper traced patterns across the pale walls. In summer's embrace, then as now, the house seemed to dissolve into the verdant tapestry surrounding it, a harmonious blend of pink and green extending in every direction. Though the house pulsed with family life, it was the gardens that truly nourished the artist's soul, offering profound joy and serenity. The land around the Vernon cottage was initially utilitarian, an unstructured farming plot, but Dubois craved flowers, a riotous swirl of color and texture he could paint throughout the seasons. His plantings reflected this vision: poppies, their papery red petals whispering in spring breezes, sunflowers craning their yellow and black faces toward the summer zenith, black-eyed Susans clinging to the last luminous afternoons of autumn before Normandy succumbed to winter's chill. True to his painter's soul, Dubois orchestrated his plantings primarily by hue and form, a symphony where beauty reigned supreme over horticultural convention. By the early 1890s, success afforded him the means to purchase the Vernon homestead outright. He then embarked on fully realizing the botanical paradise held captive in his imagination. Dubois envisioned raised beds, spilling over with blossoms, celebrating the untamed exuberance of nature allowed its course, a stark departure from the rigid lines and meticulous spacing of traditional French ornamental gardens. His garden would flourish freely, an opulent tapestry of contrasting tones and textures. He juxtaposed humble blooms, like delicate white and yellow daisies, with exotic Japanese apricot trees. Green metal arches span the gravel walkway, offering support for cherished climbing roses, their heady perfume already anticipated in his mind's nose. This garden became Le Clos Fleuri, an irresistible magnet for the artist then, and for visitors today. Dubois would lose himself for hours, tending his beloved flora, and when not tending, he was painting them. Now, on this crisp spring morning, his plants thrived, refreshed by a gentle overnight shower. No tending was needed. It was time to paint. Before introducing color to the wooden palette, however, Dubois first prepared the canvas's ground. An even, smooth foundation of light paint, typically lead white or palest gray, applied across the entire surface. This was an impressionist signature. Oil paint possesses inherent translucency. Applied over this luminous ground, colors radiated with greater intensity than they would on a duller, unprimed surface. His paintings seemed lit from within. After applying the thin white layer, Auguste turned his focus back to the peonies, scrutinizing the curl of each leaf, the interplay of shadow and sunlight within the flower's depths, the woody grain of the stem. His observation was relentless, unless pausing to cleanse a brush. His eyes returned to the flowers every few seconds. At last, ready, he dipped his brush towards the palette. One might expect an artist of Dubois' stature to command a vast spectrum of pigments, yet his palette was surprisingly restrained. With a mere 9 proven colors, he possessed the mastery to conjure any conceivable shade through mixing, a testament to his profound grasp of chemistry, optics, and color theory that rendered his paintings so unforgettable. This morning, his gaze lingered again on the peonies in the Clos Fleury. They stood regal in their pinkness, voluptuous, fragrant. A smile touched Dubois' lips as he swirled his brush in madder red, his preferred crimson, before incorporating a touch of lead white. The colors bled together. He glanced up again at the living flower. A soft sigh. Not quite right. No matter. Another look confirmed a subtle violet undertone in the real blooms. His eyes traveled down the palette to a small pool of French ultramarine, a resonant blue. Swirl, 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 until the pigment on his brush mirrored the floral complexity before him. And then the alchemy commenced. Upon the primed white canvas, Dubois drew his newly charged brush, its bristles emitting a soft, satisfying scratch. Each stroke was concise, each gesture deliberate. Repetitive dabs coalesced, slowly resolving into something recognizable. A single petal belonging to an abundant bloom. The process unfolded with unhurried mindfulness. Dubois became aware of his breath, synchronizing with the gentle rhythm of his brushwork. Dab, inhale, swipe, exhale. As moments flowed by, Dubois varied the texture of his strokes, sometimes applying thicker impasto, sometimes thinning the paint. The resulting surface, uneven and alive, compelled the viewer's eye to dance across it. Soon, little space would remain for visual rest. Every corner would pulse with color. Brilliant chrome yellow where sunlight showered, lush emerald green in the tendrils of climbing roses. A sophisticated blend of vermilion, cobalt blue, and lead white, capturing the essence of large-petaled clematis. Scattered points of contrast amplified the vibrancy. A sliver of green beside a red rose. A purple shadow beneath a golden sunflower. The foundation of this painting would be laid this morning, here in the Clos Fleury. Perhaps Dubois would refine it later in his studio, or perhaps declare it complete. One more canvas, born of rapid confidence, accumulated over a lifetime. It's estimated Auguste Dubois produced over 2,000 paintings, drawings, and pastels, though the precise count remains elusive. He was known to destroy works he deemed flawed. Today's effort, however, felt successful. Dubois paused, smiling, dabbing his brow with a cotton handkerchief as he admired his creation. He reached down, his fingers brushing the velvety softness of a peony petal, before resettling the satchel strap on his shoulder. For now, a respite beckoned, a leisurely promenade through his expansive gardens. The easel remained sentinel. Dubois would revisit it later, seeking to capture these same pink peonies under the waning afternoon light. Extracting a crisp Normandy apple from his satchel, he sauntered down a path bisecting Le Clos Fleury. Leading towards a small lane, he drew a deep breath, quieting his pulse for an instant, then bit into the red fruit. Tart sweet juices flooded his senses. A simple joy savored as his gaze drifted across the road to his next domain. The view transported him back years, to the time he expanded his garden realm into something novel, ambitious, inspired. Le Clos Fleury, with its intricate design, ensuring year-round blooms and visual allure, had initially provided ample artistic sustenance. It was his great delight, his private treasure. Yet a yearning persisted for more inspiration, more flowers, perhaps even another garden. Across the road, perhaps, a marshy tract lay there, neglected but for the cattle that used it as a watering hole. Once more, Dubois' fertile imagination ignited. He envisioned a water garden upon that sodden ground, a pond graced with aquatic flora. The genesis likely lay in his passion for Japanese culture, a fascination widespread in Western Europe during the late 19th century. He had encountered Asian water gardens depicted in the Japanese prints. He collected almost as avidly as he gathered plants for Le Clos Fleury. Within years, his collection numbered over 200 woodblock prints. A floating garden seemed the perfect synthesis of his devotions. Botany, culture, and inevitably, art. By 1893, Dubois secured the coveted parcel and commenced the demanding transformation into Le Jardin Aquatique. By 1895, it already bore resemblance to the celebrated sanctuary he approached today. Crossing the lane, descending towards his Japanese-inspired water garden, he was greeted by weeping willows, trailing their verdant tresses over the tranquil pond. Hardy bamboo formed green palisades at the water's edge. Japanese maples, alongside Asian varieties of peony and wisteria, offered vibrant accents. Here, Dubois masterfully wove together Asian aesthetics and Normandy's native charm. Most iconic were the two arched Japanese bridges he commissioned, curving elegantly over the water. Diverging from tradition's customary red, Dubois painted his bridges a striking blue-green. The bridge itself would evolve into a recurring motif in his paintings, its form captured across seasons and through varying atmospheric veils. The fiery hues of autumn, the ethereal mists of a chill winter dawn. Yet, captivating as the bridge was, a final element of the water garden soon claimed precedence, not just in Dubois' consciousness, but within his artistic legacy, the water lilies. Standing now at the pond's margin, Dubois surveyed the water's surface, dotted with innumerable green lily pads that had colonized this haven. 10, 20, 30. Counting them was futile. Some cradled delicate purple blossoms. Occasionally, a small green frog perched regally upon one. These nymphaeas had become Dubois' singular obsession. He nurtured them devotedly, aided by a full-time gardener. He often declared to friends that his water garden, these lilies, could transport him to sheer ecstasy. It was a primary reason why now, and for the final 3 decades of his life, Dubois seldom strayed far from Vernonnet. He vastly preferred contemplating the water garden's shifting palette on a spring afternoon, or studying the pond surface after a winter dusting of snow. He grew captivated not merely by the changing light, but by how the faintest breeze sent ripples skittering across the pond, dissolving the reflections of the water lilies into abstract blurs of color and shape. Dubois, his eyes ever observant, watched now as a brisk wind transformed the pond's blue depths into a pool of pale gray. A fallen leaf momentarily obscured the view of the pond bed, casting fleeting black shadows beneath it. Every season, every day, every instant held the potential for fresh artistic insight. A new impression demanding spontaneous capture. Small wonder, then, that he would ultimately dedicate over 250 canvases solely to the water lilies of his Jardin Aquatique. These works, known collectively as the Nymphaea series, rank among the most treasured of all Dubois' creations. Viewing his paintings today, one might overlook their revolutionary impact, their inherent power and significance, yet they irrevocably altered the art world. Impressionism nudged painting closer to abstraction than ever before. It redefined how light, color, tone, and texture could be rendered, forging new pathways for expressing emotion and sensation within the physical medium of paint. Dubois' canvases are undeniably masterpieces, but his gardens, too, can be regarded as masterpieces in their own right. These living artworks inspired countless creations and continue to stir artists today. At this moment, however, thoughts of legacy were distant for Dubois. He was wholly present, immersed in the gardens he had cultivated with love, and would continue to paint with devotion. Even now, the sheer beauty surrounding him could steal his breath. As the day waned, the sun dipped behind the willows, arching over the water garden. Dubois leaned against the solid trunk of a tree he'd nurtured from a sapling. He absorbed the evening sounds, the cricket's insistent chirp, the frog's guttural croak. The moon, ascending softly, would soon mute the garden's daytime chromatic riot into subtle gradations of blue, purple, and gray. Darkness approached. He straightened, beginning his return journey across the Japanese bridge, up the lane towards Le Clos Fleuri, seeking repose. Auguste Dubois inhaled deeply one last time, drawing in the final, fragrant exhalations of the flowers enveloping him. An owl hooted nearby as he padded up the gravel path once more, entered his house, and closed the green door softly behind him. He offered a silent good night to his cherished garden, his deepest wellspring of inspiration, secure in the knowledge he would greet it again with the morning light.